Welcome back to After the Routine. I'm your host, Rachelle Provost, and we're here to talk about conferences. So I know that conferences can feel very overwhelming, and there's a lot of things that are happening. It's super exciting because you get to go and learn about cheerleading or tumbling, which is also like my favorite thing. Like, at what point else in my life do I get to go and talk and listen and learn about cheerleading and tumbling for like 2 full days? It's like school for cheerleading, and I'm all for it. But they can be really overwhelming for new coaches. They're a lot of people. They're usually packed schedules. So you have like 12 hours of just learning and demos and sitting and getting involved. And then all of that information that you're processing, there's so much to learn, and you can't necessarily go to everything. And so what do you do in that way? So the point of this episode is that by the end, you'll be able to have a game plan of what to bring, how to prepare for a conference, what to make sure that you focus on, and then also how do you make sure that you go home and actually do it. Okay, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to TTB Media and Consulting Inc., who are sponsoring this episode. As a founding sponsor of After the Routine, TTB Media is helping us share stories that show athletes, parents, coaches, and industry professionals what is possible beyond the mats. Just dive right in. So over the past few weeks, I've seen quite a few posts in coaches groups that are saying like, hey, we're going to this conference, or we're going to our first conference. What should we bring? What should we do? Or we're bringing our staff for the first time. And then how do we go about that? And so what I really want to focus on first is the kind of like practical side of it. So conferences are long. Like, they're 2 full days. You are sometimes sitting on the floor, sometimes you're sitting in chairs, it's stadium seating, maybe it's like classroom style. There's so many different ways to do a conference, and that's not even pulling in conferences that are like having you up and moving, or even speakers that make their presentations very interactive, which are also some of my favorite ones, because as someone who has spoken at a conference, I love when people interact. Like, you're there to learn, I'm there to give you information, so let's go back and forth. Let's make this the best thing that you can get out of this weekend. And so, like I said, they're long days. So you really want to prioritize making sure that you're comfortable. So knowing, like, are you wearing the right shoes? And like, it's great to look super fancy, but we've been at competitions before where you've potentially worn uncomfortable shoes. It's the same thing. So unless there's a specific standard that maybe you or your gym are setting, running shoes are totally fine. Cheer shoes are totally fine to be able to wear to a conference. Just making sure that you are able to stand, like lots of walking, lots of standing, moving. Another thing to bring is a sweater. So a lot of conferences, especially depending on the room, the temperature can really change. And so if you have like a very packed full room, and then you maybe also have tumbling going on at the same time, the temperature in the room will go up. So you want to make sure that you'll be able to take it off. But then on the other side of it, if you're sitting there and listening and it's more like classroom styles, it can get really cold really quick. And there's nothing really worse to me than sitting in the cold or being too hot for like an hour at a time. You also want to make sure that you look professional. Like, you're going there to learn, but you're also potentially representing yourself as a gym, or you're representing your business. So you want to make sure that if you're going with a gym, checking in and asking them, hey, like, what's the dress code? What are we going for as a team? Is there a specific look that we're going for? Are we wearing a program t-shirt? Can we wear any of it as long as it's program and branded? And then what is the expectation? Is it business casual? Is it casual? Is it more formal if you're in a director's role? Some other things that are really helpful are just those small essentials that we think about, but sometimes we forget. So making sure that you have a notebook if you're someone who takes handwritten notes, so pens, pencils. If you're someone who brings their computer, make sure you have your charger. I have been there before where I have forgotten my charger, and then I've been sitting in a conference, the laptop has died, and I'm just sitting there like, I really wish I would have brought in this. Another thing is that because you are going through and it's like 12-hour days, maybe you're texting back and forth between your coaches group, maybe you're taking photos and videos, making sure that you also have a phone charger or a battery pack is super important so that you're also not draining your phone and then not being able to communicate or look at the schedule and figure out where you're going next. A water bottle is pretty much like a non-negotiable for me. I need to make sure that I have a water bottle with me at all points when I'm going at conferences. Like, I'm sitting there for 12 hours. I don't necessarily want to be drinking coffee the whole time. That doesn't mean that I don't drink a lot of coffee when I'm at conferences to try and help me stay focused. But with that, you are able to stay hydrated. When you're hydrated, you're able to stay focused. So just like you tell your athletes, make sure you're bringing a water bottle. Snacks are super helpful because I'm someone who is a snacker and I like to be able to have a quick snack. Now, that being said, make sure you're not bringing super smelly snacks or really loud snacks to make sure that you're respecting the people around you and also the speaker that is putting on that presentation. I also personally don't like to bring any snacks that could have peanuts or nuts, just being aware that there are allergies and I'm not necessarily going to be able to control in that environment, and just trying to make it safe and comfortable for everyone who's attending. And then finally, if you're a gym owner or a director or you're someone who works for a business, making sure that you're bringing business cards. They're always in my asthma backpack, which I go everywhere with me. So I always want to make sure that I have those so that I can hand them out. And that's not necessarily for you to be able to just like get business. It's for you to be able to have that connection. And for some people, it's their Instagram is the way that they connect, and maybe they have a coaching Instagram. For others, being able to have a business card, their phone number, their email on it can be really beneficial for them. Okay, so that was like the physical prep of the conference and like what to bring. So making sure that you're comfortable, that you're able to sit there for 12 hours straight, learning all these things. And then how are you able to enjoy the experience? Because like the snacks, for example, sometimes you don't always have time to run out and get a lunch. So having snacks is super important. Okay, the second part is actually like the mental prep and pacing yourself throughout the day, which if you've ever gone to a conference and you've been like, I'm going to do absolutely everything and I'm going to get through the schedule and it's going to be great, you've probably gotten to about 3/4 of the day and you're like, I'm absolutely exhausted and I have a headache and my back hurts and I'm tired and cranky. And so making sure that you're pacing yourself and getting prepped for literally 2 full days of learning cheerleading. So you want to think of conference day as like a marathon, not necessarily like a full out routine. It is like, okay, what are the most important things that you want to get out of this? Is it a specific tumbling knowledge? Is it stunt? If you're a director or a gym owner, focusing on the business and working on the business and not necessarily working in the business and letting your coaches be able to do that. But like the reality is conferences are long and fatigue and getting tired and having physical symptoms are totally normal. Like it's the same thing as if you go to a competition and you spend 15 hours a day listening to competition music just like boom in your ears. You're going to get tired. You're going to get cranky. So being able to take a moment and go and take a break. And so with that being said, like their conference schedules are usually packed. Sometimes you'll have conferences that actually put a scheduled lunch break in where it's okay, everyone is going, which I love conferences like that because it does allow you to take that time or recap with your team. But if it is the case where they don't, and it's just like back to back to back sessions and speakers and like incredible knowledge. And I know that that's super important for every coach to learn, but it's also really important for you to take a break. And so if there's a session that is not as important to you or that your gym owner says is optional and you're like, by that time I'm exhausted, it's okay to like go find a place in a corner and like put headphones on and just chill, watch like a quick clips on TikTok or, you know, take a few moments to breathe and listen to music or just like do nothing. Like if you're in a conference where you're traveling to it and you have a hotel room, like go sit in silence and not do anything or go outside and take a walk, take a break, step away from that moment because those mindful moments allow you to continue to be productive instead of just like getting information thrown at your face over and over and you're not actually taking it in. And I think it's also really important because sometimes I find when I'm talking to people at conferences and they're like, well, I don't want to take a break because I'm not going to miss out or I'm not going to keep up in that area. And like the reality is you're not going to keep up. if you're tired. And we say the same thing to our athletes all the time. It's like if you're exhausted and not focused, those skills aren't going to work. And the same thing applies at conferences. So when you're looking at the schedule and you're going through, that's one of those moments that you can almost build, like in marketing, I call it white space, where it's like room to breathe in a graphic. And the same thing would happen in a conference. So making sure that you have those moments, we can call them mindful moments, we can call them white space moments, whatever you want to do, or also just like me moments to reflect and take a moment and come back refreshed. Okay, before we go into the next one, I want to talk on the actual schedule component of it. When we're talking about the schedule, there's a difference between going to a conference alone and going to a conference with a business partner or with other coaches with your gym. If you're going to a conference alone, I want you to go through the schedule and find all of the things that you think will be most important. When you're looking at that schedule, it's important to remember what your role is. So if you're a director, you don't necessarily need to be going and looking at all of the coaching aspects. You might be better to go in and learn some of the business or the supervisor or the management experience so that you can bring that back to your gym. If you're a coach who is learning level 1 and level 2, going to a level 4, 5, 6, or 7 class isn't going to benefit you right now. You're not going to get the most value for your current role and for your current team. Now, if you have your level 1, you have your level 2, and you're trying to credential to your level 3, that's where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go to level 3 classes. I'm not going to go to these level 1 and 2 because I need to focus on this in order to do the next step. Now, if you're going with a partner, if you're going with a group, this is where it's probably my favorite thing to do because one, I love learning and I love talking about cheerleading and learning and all the things that you can do after conferences. It's overwhelming, but like it's so much fun. And so one of the things that I like to do is look at the schedule and say, okay, these are the ones that I'm really interested in. And based off of what you need from me, what my role is in this gym, what are the ones that you want me to go to? And once again, that's being able to have those conversations, especially with gym owners and managers and supervisors and saying, this is what I would like to do. These are the areas that I feel I need the most work in, which also takes a lot of self-reflection to be able to do, which we could do a whole other podcast on self-reflection as a professional. But that being said, being able to look at the schedule, actually identify what's important and prioritize the classes that you want to go to, and then saying to your director or your gym owner, hey, these are the ones that I'm really interested in, and if possible, I'd love to attend them. And then if your gym owner or director gives you a schedule and it doesn't have those ones on, you can always say to them like, hey, I was interested in this one. Can you just explain why I'm going to that one? And it may be that as a team, you're being divided into different sessions so that everyone can learn and bring them back together. And so that's not a bad thing. Being able to utilize as many people as you can to go to as many topics as you can is super important. It allows you to be able to get all that knowledge without having to be specifically in there. And so depending on the gym or the situation that I've been in, a lot of times what I'll do is we'll create an album, whether that's a band group album or an iPhone folder, or if it's on an app called Photo Circle, which I talked about in a previous episode with Sarah Walsh. I absolutely love it. And I use it in my business personally when I'm working with clients, but I use it with the gym that I work with. And so being able to pop photos or videos into those is where we're going to tie it into talking about note-taking. Okay, so note-taking. It's like school. There's so much information and you need to be able to find the way that works best for you. And I really want to stress that, what works best for you, because there is no single right way to take notes at a conference. It is, what is the way that you're going to remember it? And also, if you're going as a group, what is the group going to remember it? So there's a couple different things. You can do pen and paper. So like super low-key, school-based, old school writing pen and paper. You could also take photos or videos of like slides and handouts, or tumbling drills and demonstrations when you're in those sessions. I absolutely love taking videos in tumbling or stunting or creative sessions, because even if I write it down, it's not really going to demonstrate what that instructor is showing. And so for those type of ones, I would definitely reach out. I would definitely take videos while you're in there and just make sure that the person who's demoing or the speaker is comfortable with videos being taken. The other way you can do it is taking a laptop or a phone and writing notes on them. I prefer a laptop laptop because I do find that like a phone looks like I'm just texting on my phone, where I want the respect shown to the speaker for the information and knowledge that they're giving me. So like I personally like a laptop, but that's not to say that taking them on your phone or on a notes app is a bad thing. It's just making sure that you're engaging and showing them like you're not sitting in the back just bored, like, okay, when is this going to finish, right? So making sure like, yep, okay, awesome, super engaged, all the things, body language, the way that you're looking up. And then you could take all of those and then combine them into kind of like a hybrid model. So I personally like taking my laptop and I also take my phone. I like taking notes on my laptop because I'll typically go to business or marketing one so that I can focus on the area that's my specialty. But I also will take photos of slides with my phone, or when I'm in a tumbling or a stunting or creative one, like I said, I'm taking videos with my phone so I can go back and review them. And then, like we talked about, that team collaboration is so important. And that team collaboration doesn't even have to be within your gym. So if you are going alone, but maybe you have another gym owner friend that is there, maybe they're willing to share the notes of the sessions that they're in, so you're also getting in that. But team collaboration as a whole, like I could talk about this for so long and all the different ways that you could do it, but I'm going to try and like summarize it up into like the most important things that I think you should know going into a conference, which is when you're able to share knowledge between everyone and you're able to bring it back together and review it, it feels like no one's missing out. So like if you're going to one, but you really wanted to do this one and your coworker or co-coach is going to that one, now you can still get that knowledge and be able to take like 12 hours. And like there are some conferences that have 6 sessions going on at one time. And like there's literally no possible way for you to do that unless a conference does a replay moment where you can go and purchase, or it's included in your ticket to go back and watch replays of the sessions, but not all conferences offer that. And so being able to put all the photos, all the videos, Google Docs together, sharing those screenshots and put it into one place, whether that's the iPhone folder, the band group, a Google document, or the photo circle like I talked about, you're able to share the knowledge and get as much benefit out of the conference as you can. Because conferences aren't cheap. They're an expense that you have to invest in yourself. And that's what I really want you to go into conferences, remembering that that is time for you to invest in yourself as a coach, as a director, as a professional, as a gym owner, whatever that may be, but that is time that you're putting out to learn your craft, to get better at what you do. So getting as much information from as many sources as possible is awesome, because then you can decide, okay, I really liked this thing, or I really like this, or this doesn't work maybe for the number of athletes that we have, but something to keep in mind for later on as we grow. And you can go back and say, okay, this is what we're doing going forward. It also, when you're creating a collaborative environment, allows you to set a culture in your gym or your business that learning and collective learning is really important. And so it prioritizes the fact that like one coach is not better than the other. You're all there to get better. You're all there to help your athletes, to make the business better, to create more opportunities for families. And so how can we do that together? Okay, the last one is kind of like a bonus one where it's for you personally, but it's also geared towards supervisors and owners. So it's really, really important to bring home the knowledge. So you spend 2 full days and you get all this incredible information. You have all these notes, all these screenshots, all these videos. And you always leave a conference feeling like, oh my gosh, like we're going to tackle all of this. We're going to put it into place. And then about like 3 weeks later, nothing got done. Nothing is different than before you left. And so scheduling time to actually debrief as a team, whether that is in person at the end of every day, whether that is a specific staff meeting or in a group chat, and be able to have those messages back and forth without having to be in person. There are so many ways that you can debrief as a team, but really the goal is to come back and ask yourself a few questions, which is, what did you learn? And not just like, oh yeah, I was in a tumbling class for 3 hours. I learned levels 1, 2, and 3. Here's these things. But like, what were the specific things that you were like, oh my gosh, like that clicked? that way that person said that I really want to do that game idea I want to implement. So being specific in what did you learn? What do you want to bring back to the gym? What can you implement right now? Based off of what you learned, what are things that you're not currently doing in the gym, in the business, in your role that you would love for you to start doing or to see done or implemented? And then you want to go through and you need to look at all of the things, and every single person on your team or yourself need to go through and you need to think about 2 to 3 items. That's it. You're not going to try and tackle this whole list right away. It's not going to work. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to lose steam and motivation, but choose 2 to 3 big action items that you want to tackle and then go and implement them. So was it a new drill? Was it a technique? Was it a way that practices are structured? Was it a new idea for a program or marketing tactic? See what works, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then set up a specific meeting. So like put it in a calendar, put it as like a notification in your phone, in a Google document, whatever it may be. But in 2 to 4 weeks after you've made that list, you need to come back and you need to actually follow up. And then you're going to ask yourself what changed, what worked, and what didn't work. Because not everything you learn is going to work for your gym or for that specific stage of your coaching or your gym life. And so it's not a bad thing to have those ideas, because maybe in a year or 2 years or 5 years, you're able to implement them and put them in place. But for right now, you're going to hold those in your back pocket. The last one that I want to touch on is networking. And networking is one of my favorite things to do. I'm a talker. I mean, obviously I run a podcast and I talk all the time, and I talk to people and I talk by myself to you so that you have all of this information. But networking really changed when I was in university and like my thought process behind it. So I had originally been told that like networking was all about like the best way to get where you want to go. And that's very much how it's like framed, is like, how can I get something out of this? How do I do better out of this? That's what I hear a lot of people talking about when they talk about networking. And I think that the big shift for me was when I had a professor and a mentor say to me that networking is all about relationships. Okay, that's easy. I make relationships all the time. I make relationships with my athletes, I make relationships with my co-coaches, with the parents. Normally, as a coach, you're pretty good at making relationships. And that's one way I want you to think about it. Networking is not about how you can get ahead, but it is about what kind of relationships you can have. And so that is relationships with other coaches, other gym owners, other directors, being able to go up to a conference speaker or a panel guest and saying like, hey, my name's this, I work at this gym, and here's what I liked. And like, oh, I've heard this in another area, or I had a question about what you said about this point. That's all part of networking. You're wanting to go up and create a relationship with that person where you can get that question maybe that you had answered, or to start a recognition of the person. Like, hey, I loved what you did. I saw this, I've tried this. It didn't go as well, but like, this is where we're going from there. Networking can also be some of the most valuable parts of a conference, and being able to connect. So like connect on Instagram, connect on Facebook, email, TikTok, whatever it is, the way that that person communicates, being able to make a relationship. There are so many relationships that I've made at conferences from like 5, 6. I mean, there's even conferences 10 years ago that I went to while I was in university, and I still talk to those people. And if I needed like information on a program, or like, hey, I know that you ran into this issue, I'd love like a little bit of feedback on what we're doing, or like, I just need a tip, like, where do I go from here? Those are all great ways that you can continue that networking. And the other thing too is that for a lot of conferences, they're usually people that are around you or in that area. And so like, you might see them at competitions, you might be competitors, and being able to have that relationship benefits you, but it also benefits your athletes, because now you're bringing in more knowledge. Now you're saying hi and being a role model for them at competitions. When you see that person, you're like, hey, like, I saw your junior too, and like, they looked awesome. Or like, I want to know how you did that mini level 1 stunt, because it was just like so surprising and creative. Or when you run into an issue with like, oh, hey, my athlete is having this issue with this back handspring, like, I need a second set of eyes. We've tried all these things, and like, what do you see, and what are some things that you think that they could do to help that skill. I know that like when I was talking to a couple younger coaches and they were like, well, networking is like terrifying to me and like talking to people. And so networking is really great because it is a conversation and a topic that you all are passionate and interested about. Like you all love cheerleading, you all love tumbling, you all love dance or gymnastics. And so that is one of those things that like breaks the ice instantly. Like, hey, I'm a coach in this province or this state, and this is what I liked about it, right? Like you are all passionate about cheerleading. And so that instantly breaks the ice. You don't have to wonder, like, why are they here? Or what's their business? And that sort of thing. Like, you know, they're a cheerleading gym. You know, they're a tumbling gym. You know, they're a dance studio. And so it takes away some of that pressure. They're there and they're just as passionate about what they do. So go and make those relationships, say hi, meet them. That's also to say the same thing about conference speakers. So go up and ask speakers questions. Like I said before, I love interactive things. So like when you're in my conference sessions, ask me questions, like literally anything. Ask me all of these things that I'm talking about today. If it's in my area of expertise, here's what I'll give you. But also, like, if I don't know it, I probably know someone who does. So then I can connect you and say, like, hey, I would recommend talking to this person. Or, hey, I know this session is happening at this time later today. Highly recommend that you go and check that out because that sounds like something you'd be really interested in. And then while you're also there, like I said before, making sure that you're having those Instagrams, having those business cards available so that you can follow up and continue creating that relationship with them. And then I think like the most important thing to remember when you are there is like, those are your peers. There are other coaches, there are other gym owners, there are other directors, and everyone once had a first time moment. They went to their first conference. They were at their first networking event. They were talking to a speaker for the first time. And so while we may think that like we're very self-conscious of it and aware of it, the other person is also aware that like you might be more nervous. They might be nervous there. Like it may be their first time as a conference speaker. It may be their first time in a new director role and they're sitting there like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm doing. Just take the pressure off of it and focus on building relationships and getting as much information as you can. And that will make a better conference experience. Okay, so like that's a lot of information. And you guys know that when it is a solo episode, I just rant, I yap, and then we go through it. So just kind of like give a little bit of a recap about things. Make sure that you're preparing physically and mentally and being ready to like hit the floor at 8 a.m. and get all the information that you're going to get. Make sure to pace yourself. So being able to create those mindful moments or those me moments or those white space moments where you have a second to take a breath and relax and recap so that you can go back in there refreshed. Make sure to get all the information. So capture it and take notes however you may be, whether that's a physical notebook or a laptop or a hybrid of in between. And then collaborate and share that information with each other. If that's with the coworkers that you're there with, or with another gym owner who wasn't able to go into that session. Then once you're done, you're gonna leave, you're gonna find the priorities, only 2 to 3 though, because you wanna be able to actually tackle them all. And then you're gonna set that action list, and then 2 to 4 weeks, you're gonna come back and you're gonna review what changed, what worked, and what didn't work. And then you also wanna connect. So being able to create those networking moments and taking time to build relationships. And the more you do it, just like any other skill, the better you're going to get at it and the less anxiety or pressure you're going to put on yourself to do those skills. Okay, so that was my ramble for today. And I want to know, like, what is something that's really important to you when you go to a conference? What tips or things do you bring to make sure that you're successful? Make sure to comment them or DM me on social media. On Facebook and Instagram, we're at After the Routine Podcast. And on TikTok, we're After the Routine _podcast. We've got access to our TikTok again, and it's now up and live. But yeah, shoot me a DM. And like start that conversation, start that relationship. Feel free to start that relationship and test it with me first so that when you go to those conferences, you're ready to go. And remember, like, follow, share, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who's going to their conference or going to their first conference And they can just take all these tips and everything and have an incredible weekend of learning about their favorite topic, which is like really, like I said earlier, at what point do we ever get to spend like 2 full days just learning and talking about cheerleading and tumbling? Like that's the best scenario ever for so many people. And so I hope that you have an incredible conference season. If you have any questions, make sure to DM me on social media. And we'll talk to you next time where we're answering the question, what happens after the routine ends?